Christmas Eve is supposed to smell like pine and forgiveness. Mine smelled like expensive perfume and judgment. My name is Lena Hartwell. I'm 29 years old. And on this particular Christmas Eve, I was still, according to my family, a failure with a degree. I'm an agricultural systems engineer, which is a long way of saying I build tech for farmers. But to my parents, I was just the daughter who didn't become a lawyer, didn't marry rich, and didn't know when to quit dreaming. The moment I stepped into Ravenport Country Club, all gold trim, soft carols, and fake smiles, I knew this dinner wasn't about holiday cheer. It was about me. The chandelier above the dining room scattered warm light across polished wood so expensive it felt like it could judge you. I followed the hostess to what she called the family table, her smile practiced, sympathetic. The kind you give someone right before the ground shifts under them. My father, Calvin Hartwell, 62, corporate real estate executive, checked his watch before I even sat down. Once, twice, 3 times. My mother, Marjorie, adjusted her emerald earrings, slow, deliberate, like she was bracing for a performance she'd rehearsed. My younger sister Vivian, 26, lifestyle influencer, already had her phone angled just right, Christmas lights reflecting in her pupils. Recording. Maybe. Or maybe just ready. I wore a simple navy sweater. The same one I'd worn to last year's dinner. No one noticed then either. The chair scraped softly as I sat, facing all 3 of them like I was on trial. Silverware clinked somewhere behind me. A server laughed. Normal sounds. Wrong moment. Lena, my mother said, voice coated in warmth that never meant warmth. You look well. Not beautiful. Not successful. Just well. That's when my father slid a small, velvet box across the table. Christmas Eve. Velvet box. My stomach tightened. Jewelry? An apology? A truce? I didn't touch it. Because in my family, gifts always came with strings. And consequences. Go on, Vivian said softly, smiling too hard. Open it. I hesitated. And that hesitation, that was the moment everything split. Before I tell you what was inside that box, hold on. Before we get into the real stuff, I want to know, what are you doing right now while hearing my voice? Driving, lying in bed, hiding from your own family dinner? Tell me in the comments. I read them. Always. I finally opened the box. Inside wasn't jewelry. It was a single house key, attached to a small card. A fresh start, my father said, clearing his throat. There's a guest house on the east property. It's modest, but livable, my mother cut in gently. For someone still finding her way. There it was, the word they'd used for years. Still figuring it out. Still trying things. Still not successful. The offer wasn't kindness. It was containment. Live on their property. Under their rules. Close to their pity. Your farming app, my father continued, lowering his voice like he was embarrassed for me. That little project. It's been 5 years now? 4 years, 11 months, and 3 days. But who's counting when you're failing, right? Maybe it's time to stop chasing something that clearly isn't working, he said. Christmas Eve is about family. About reality. Vivian's phone buzzed. She glanced down. Smiled. I realized then, this dinner wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't concern. It was an intervention. They decided who I was. And tonight, on Christmas Eve, they were going to lock it in. What they didn't know, what no one at that table knew, was that my phone, buried deep in my bag, had been vibrating nonstop for the last 10 minutes. Because somewhere across the city, a deal was being finalized. A deal tied to the very failure they were trying to bury. I closed the velvet box slowly. And I smiled. Not because I was grateful, but because I knew something they didn't. And in just a few hours, Christmas Eve was going to end very differently for all of us. I didn't reject the key. I let them believe I needed it. Because sometimes the most powerful move is silence. I closed the velvet box and slid it back toward my father. Not too fast. Not too slow. Thank you, I said. Two words that tasted like snow and metal. My mother exhaled, relieved. Vivian's smile sharpened. She loved a win, even when it wasn't hers. My father nodded, already mentally congratulating himself for saving me. They thought the conversation was over. It wasn't. You know, my mother added casually, stirring her cranberry mocktail. Mrs. Feldman's son just made partner. 32. Can you imagine? There it was. The comparison grenade. Soft toss. Direct hit. I nodded again. Kept my face neutral. Inside, my pulse climbed. Because my phone buzzed. Once. Then again. I didn't look. But I knew. Only one person messaged me like that. Evan Morales. My co-founder. 34. Former irrigation engineer turned stubborn optimist. Across town, he was probably pacing a conference room, tie loosened, hands shaking. Because tonight wasn't just Christmas Eve. It was decision night. 4 years earlier, Evan and I had built FieldSense in a rented storage unit that smelled like fertilizer and regret. An AI-driven soil and crop analytics platform for small farmers. Real farmers, not the ones my father invested in for tax benefits. We'd been laughed out of pitch meetings. Ignored by VCs who didn't see agriculture as sexy enough. Once a man actually told me, "Come back when you pivot to crypto." But farmers listened. They always did. FieldSense helped them cut water waste by 28%, increase yields without burning their soil. And quietly, it spread, county by county, state by state, until 3 months ago. That's when AgriNova Global called. At first, I thought it was spam. Then the emails started. Then the NDAs. Then the number. A number I'd stared at until my vision blurred. I forced myself back to the table. "So," my father said, folding his napkin like he was closing a deal, "you'll move into the guest house after New Year's?" When you're raised like I was, you learn something early. Defiance gets punished. Compliance gets praised. So I nodded. "For now," I said. Vivian tilted her head. "For now. Just until I figure out my next step," I replied. My mother smiled. Victory smile. The kind that says we were right about you. Dinner arrived, roasted duck, truffle potatoes, everything indulgent. I barely tasted it. My phone buzzed again. Longer this time. I excused myself, standing before anyone could stop me. "Bathroom," I said. No one questioned it. They never worried about where I was going. The marble hallway was quiet, decorated with wreaths and gold ribbon. Christmas music floated faintly from hidden speakers. I locked myself into a stall. Pulled out my phone. "Evan, they're ready. Final offer. $8.5 million. All cash. Decision tonight." My hands shook. 4 years of being the disappointment daughter. 4 years of side eyes and still trying. 4 years of Christmas dinners where my success was theoretical and everyone else's was framed and mounted. $8.5 million. I leaned my forehead against the cool marble wall. This was it. But here's the thing no one tells you about revenge. It's not loud. It's patient. I texted back. "Give me 1 hour. I washed my hands. Fixed my face. When I returned, dessert had arrived. Peppermint mousse. Vivian was already posting a story, camera angled toward the table. Family Christmas Eve, she said sweetly. Grateful. I sat. I was thinking, my father said, slicing his dessert. Maybe next year you could help manage some of our rental properties. Real work. Stable. I smiled. That sounds generous. My phone buzzed again. This time, I let it. The sound cut through the table like a snapped string. Vivian's eyes flicked down. My father frowned. Aren't you going to answer that? My mother asked. I looked at my screen, then back at them. I will, I said softly. But I think it might change the mood. Silence. 3 sets of eyes on me. The chandelier hummed faintly above us. Because in my pocket was a decision that could rewrite everything they thought they knew about me. And Christmas Eve was almost over. I answered the call. Not because I wanted to prove anything, but because I was done hiding. I stood up slowly, phone in hand. Every movement felt amplified, like the room itself was holding its breath. Excuse me, I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised even me. My father opened his mouth, probably to remind me about manners or timing or respect, but I was already walking away. This time, I didn't go to the bathroom. I stepped into the quiet lounge just off the dining hall. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Snow beginning to fall outside, soft and deliberate. Christmas Eve, right on schedule. Lena. Evan's voice cracked through the speaker. We're all here. Legal. Finance. Everyone. I swallowed. Read it to me, I said. A pause. Paper rustling. Agrinova Global is prepared to acquire 100% of FieldSense for $8.5 million, effective immediately. Founders retain advisory roles for 12 months. No non-compete beyond AgTech Analytics. I closed my eyes. 4 years of being dismissed. 4 years of betting on farmers instead of approval. Lena. Evan asked. Are you still there? Yes, I said. I'm here. Another pause. Then, is that a yes? I looked through the glass wall. I could see my family at the table. Vivian laughing at something my mother said. My father checking his watch again, annoyed now. They looked comfortable, confident, certain of who I was. Yes, I said into the phone. It's a yes. On the other end, there was an explosion of sound. Cheers. Someone swore. Evan laughed, actually laughed, the kind that comes from relief, not victory. Merry Christmas, he said. Merry Christmas, I replied. I ended the call. For a moment, I just stood there. Snow thickened outside, coating the world in white, like a reset button. Then I went back. The table fell quiet when I approached. My father looked irritated. My mother concerned. Vivian curious. Everything okay? My mother asked. I sat. Better than okay, I said. My father sighed. This is exactly what we were talking about. You can't keep letting distractions. Agrinova Global just bought my company, I said calmly. Silence. Real silence. Not the polite kind. The kind that swallows sound. Vivian blinked. Once. Twice. I'm sorry, my mother said. Bought. Yes. My father laughed. A short, dismissive bark. How much could a small farm app possibly sell for? I didn't answer right away. I picked up my fork. Took a bite of dessert. Peppermint and sugar. Perfect. Then I looked at him. $8.5 million. The fork slipped from my mother's hand. Vivian's phone lowered. Forgotten. My father stared at me like I'd spoken another language. That's not funny, he said finally. I'm not joking. I reached into my bag and placed my phone on the table. Screen up. The signed letter of intent glowed between us. My mother leaned forward, reading. Her face drained of color. My father didn't move. Vivian whispered, "Wait, you built that?" I nodded. All of it. The room felt smaller now. The chandelier too bright. My father cleared his throat. Well, that's impressive. There it was. Not I'm sorry. Not we were wrong. Impressive. And the guest house, my mother added quickly. You don't have to. I won't be needing it, I said. My voice was steady. Final. I slid the velvet box back across the table. This time, with intention. Keep the key, I said. I've already moved on. Vivian stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. My father's jaw tightened. You could have told us, he said. I smiled. You wouldn't have listened. Another silence. But this one felt different. Heavier. Sharper. Because success didn't heal old wounds. It exposed them. And as the snow fell thicker outside, I realized this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far more uncomfortable. For them, the money changed everything, but not in the way they expected. For a full 10 seconds, no one spoke. Then my father leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, the way he did when a negotiation turned interesting. Well, he said slowly, that certainly reframes things. Reframes. Not apologizes. Not admits fault. Just reframes. My mother recovered next. She always did. Her shock hardened into calculation. That's wonderful news, Lena, she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled mine back before she could touch it. Vivian was already typing. I saw the caption forming in her eyes before it ever hit the screen. Proud of my sister. As if she hadn't just spent years calling my work cute. I think we should toast, my father announced, raising his glass. To Lena. And her success. I didn't lift mine. Why not? He asked, brows knitting. This is what you wanted, isn't it? To prove yourself. That question landed harder than the money ever could. No, I said. I wanted you to stop treating me like I was broken. The words hung there. Christmas music drifted in from the hallway. Cheerful, cruel. My mother frowned. That's not fair. We've always supported you. I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Support isn't offering a guest house like a consolation prize, I said. Support isn't calling me, still finding my way, at every family dinner. Vivian finally looked up from her phone. Okay, but now it all worked out, she said. So what's the problem? There it was. Because in my family, results erased behavior. If you won, the past disappeared. I stood. I'm going to say this once, I said quietly. Tonight wasn't about celebrating me. It was about controlling me. My father's face hardened. That's ridiculous. Is it? I asked. You planned an intervention. On Christmas Eve. With a key. My mother looked away. Vivian's smile faded. That wasn't kindness, I continued. That was ownership. The table was silent again. My father set his glass down with care. Be careful, Lena. Don't let money make you disrespectful. I met his eyes. Money didn't change me, I said. It just removed your leverage. That did it. His jaw clenched. You think you're better than us now? No, I said. I think I finally see you clearly. The truth hurts most when it's calm. I grabbed my coat. My mother stood abruptly. Where are you going? Home, I said. But it's Christmas Eve, she insisted. Family stays together. I paused. Family doesn't humiliate you for years and expect applause when you succeed. I turned toward the door. Lena, my father called. His voice softened. Too late. You don't have to do this alone. I looked back one last time. I always did, I said. Outside, the cold hit like freedom. Snow covered the steps, the world hushed and clean. I breathed deeply. My phone buzzed. Evan, press wants a statement tomorrow. I smiled. Tomorrow, I typed back. I walked to my car, heart pounding, not from fear, but from release. Behind me, through the tall windows, I could see them. Still sitting. Still stunned. And I realized something important. This wasn't revenge. This was closure. Or so I thought. Because as I started the engine, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. Lena Hartwell? A man asked. Yes. This is Daniel Cross from AgriNova's legal team. There's something you need to know. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of something? A pause. About your family. The snow fell harder. And for the first time that night, I felt something cold crawl up my spine. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. The engine idled, heat blasting against my frozen hands as Daniel's words hung in the air. About my family? I repeated. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Yes, he said carefully. And before I continue, I need to ask, did you ever share FieldSense early financials with anyone outside your company? A memory surfaced. Unwanted. Sharp. 3 years ago. Christmas brunch. My father had asked casually how the business was doing, what the margins looked like. I'd answered vaguely. I always did. No, I said. Why? Another pause. Because during due diligence, we discovered that a Shell LLC, registered under a trust connected to your father, attempted to acquire partial rights to your technology last year. The world tilted. That's impossible, I said. My father doesn't even understand what my company does. He understands money, Daniel replied. My stomach dropped. What kind of rights? I asked. Patent adjacency, he said. Nothing that went through, but the intent was documented. Intent. My father had tried to buy a piece of my work. Quietly, without telling me. When? I asked. 10 months ago, right after AgriNova's initial market entry into mid-scale farming tech. I closed my eyes. 10 months ago was when my parents had suddenly started asking more questions, showing more interest, inviting me to dinner again. Oh my God, I whispered. We didn't think it was a coincidence, Daniel said. That's why I'm calling now. Legally, you're protected. But personally, I thought you should know. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at the windshield as snow piled up like silence. So the dinner, the key, the intervention. It wasn't just control. It was strategy. My phone buzzed again, this time a text. From my mother. Did you get home safely? I laughed. A dry, broken sound. I drove. Not home. Back to the country club. The parking lot was nearly empty now, staff clearing lights, wreaths drooping. I walked inside, boots echoing against marble. They were still there. My father looked up first. Surprised. Lena, my mother said, is everything all right? I didn't sit. How long? I asked. My father frowned. How long what? How long were you trying to buy my company without me? I said. Vivian froze. My mother's face went pale. My father stood slowly. That's a strong accusation. Daniel Cross thinks otherwise, I said. Shell LLC. Patent adjacency. 10 months ago. The silence this time was violent. My father exhaled sharply. I was protecting you, he said. By going behind my back? I snapped. You don't understand how business works, he replied. You were vulnerable. If someone else had bought you out. I wanted someone else to buy me out, I said. That was the point. My mother stepped in. Calvin, stop. Vivian whispered. Dad, is this true? My father's jaw worked. I was ensuring family retained influence, he said finally. There it was. Influence. Control, dressed up as love. You called me your disappointment, I said quietly, while trying to profit from the very thing you mocked. His eyes flashed. That was different. No, I said. It was exactly the same. My hands shook, not from fear now, but rage. You didn't believe in me, I continued. You believed in owning me. My mother reached for me again. I stepped back. I'm done, I said. With all of it. My father straightened, pride wounded. You'll regret burning bridges. I smiled. I already sold the bridge, I said. For $8.5 million. Vivian let out a small sound. Half laugh, half sob. I turned to leave. Behind me, my mother called my name. I didn't stop. Because some Christmas Eve truths don't need forgiveness. They need distance. And as I stepped back into the snow, I realized something terrifying and freeing. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was war. And I wasn't the one who started it. They taught me how to survive. I taught myself how to win. The next morning, Christmas Day, the world looked softer than it felt. Snow covered the city in clean white lies. Inside my apartment, my phone buzzed nonstop. Emails, congratulations, interview requests. FieldSense was trending in niche tech circles. AgriNova's acquisition had leaked overnight. I ignored most of it, because at 9:02 a.m., my father called. I let it ring. At 9:05, my mother texted, "We need to talk." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop. If my father wanted influence, I would make sure he never touched my work again. I called Maya Chen, my attorney. 38. Brilliant. Terrifying. Tell me everything, she said after I finished. She was quiet for a long moment. Your father didn't break the law, she finally said. But he documented intent. That matters. Meaning. Meaning you can expose him, she said. Or you can outmaneuver him. I smiled. Let's do both. By noon, AgriNova's PR team had a revised press packet. It highlighted the founder's journey, grassroots beginnings, female-led innovation, and one small, surgical detail. FieldSense was built independently, without family funding or influence, despite repeated pressure to relinquish control. No names, no accusations, just truth. The response was immediate. Industry insiders read between lines for a living. By afternoon, my father's phone started ringing. By evening, he showed up at my door. Unannounced. Christmas Day. I didn't invite him in. He stood in the hallway, coat dusted with snow, pride cracking at the edges. You embarrassed me, he said. I crossed my arms. You tried to steal from me. I was trying to help, he snapped. Help looks different when it's honest. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You don't understand what this does to my reputation. I tilted my head. I do, I said. And for once, it's not my job to protect it. He stared at me, really stared, like he was finally seeing the person I'd become. "What do you want?" he asked. The old Lena would have asked for an apology. For acknowledgement. The new Lena knew better. "I want distance," I said. "And I want you to stop talking about me like I'm a liability." He scoffed. "You owe this family." "I owe myself," I cut in. Silence. Then, quietly, "You've always been ungrateful." I smiled sadly. "And you've always been afraid of anything you can't control." That landed. He left without another word. That night, I sat alone with a mug of cocoa, Christmas lights blinking softly. No family. No chaos. Just peace. Or so I thought. My phone buzzed. "Vivian." "I didn't know," she wrote. "About Dad." I hesitated. Then typed back. "You still filmed it." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. "I'm sorry," she finally sent. I stared at the message. Then locked my phone. Some apologies arrived too late to matter. Outside, snow began falling again. And for the first time in my life, I felt light. Because revenge wasn't loud. It was living well. Without asking permission. But even then, I didn't know the final twist was still waiting. Because the next morning, an email arrived. From AgriNova. Subject line: Post-acquisition adjustment. And as I opened it, I realized my family wasn't the last thing I'd have to confront. The hardest part of revenge is knowing when to stop. The email was polite. Too polite. Post-acquisition adjustment. Corporate language for something has changed. I read it once. Then again. AgriNova wanted to restructure my advisory role. Less visibility. More guidance. A quiet suggestion that I step back and let their senior team optimize what I'd built. The money was already wired. They couldn't take that. But they could erase me. I closed my laptop and stared at the Christmas lights glowing in my living room. Red. Green. Blinking patiently. For years, my family told me to shrink. Now a $1 billion company was asking the same thing, just in better grammar. I called Evan. "They're sidelining me," I said. He was quiet for a beat. "Are you surprised?" he asked gently. "No," I admitted. "But I'm not accepting it." Neither did he. By noon, we had a plan. At 2 p.m., AgriNova's leadership joined a video call expecting compliance. They didn't get it. Instead, they got data. Metrics. Farmer testimonials. A live demo showing that FieldSense worked because of how it was built, not just what it did. Then I spoke. "FieldSense doesn't need optimization," I said calmly. "It needs respect. And so do the people who built it." Silence. One executive cleared his throat. "We assumed you'd prefer to step away now that you've succeeded." There it was again. The assumption that success meant disappearing. "I succeeded because I didn't step away," I replied. "And I won't start now." By the end of the call, my advisory role was restored. With teeth. Christmas lights blinked approvingly. Later that evening, I got one last message. From my mother. "Dinner is still on tomorrow, if you want." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then typed. "No, not cruel. Not dramatic. Just honest." I spent New Year's Eve on a farm 2 hours outside the city. One of the first FieldSense users. A family-run operation. Muddy boots, warm smiles, real laughter. As fireworks lit the sky, the farmer raised a glass and said, "You believed in us before anyone else did." I smiled. That was the only approval I'd ever needed. Months later, I heard through mutual connections that my father stopped introducing me as the risky one. Now he just didn't mention me at all. And that was fine. Because the truth is, revenge isn't about humiliating people who hurt you. It's about becoming someone they can no longer reach. I wasn't the disappointment daughter anymore. I was a founder, a builder, a woman who trusted herself when no one else did. And on that Christmas Eve, they tried to give me a key to a small life. I built my own door instead. If this story hit close to home, if you've ever been underestimated, controlled, or quietly dismissed, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel Silent Revenge Lab, because sometimes the quietest revenge is the most powerful one of all.